Out here in the shadow hours, watching the traffic go by. Had to go into another realm and shit, but still talking about the conscious community and the intelligence community. It appears to be a versus, but they've united those verses. They are a universe. The intelligence community and the conscious community through infiltration. And I'm just going through different videos and shit, showing that tie and the infiltration. This is from UBTV, the Coon-trolled opposition. Coon energy out here. Do I detect the Ku Klux? The Ku Club.
Necessarily mean you have a successful life. I keep telling black women that to raise a child, they say, well, I provided with food, clothing, and shelter. That's not raising a child, that's maintaining one. To raise a child, you need a parental coalition of a man and a woman. We have sons who are, by not having a...
Yeah, but you know how this shit is going down in 2021, no? 2021, it's going to be 2 men and a baby, or 2 women and a baby. Changing up the family structure all crazy. 2 women with a son. 2 men with a son. Or a daughter. You see how it changes up shit? Because when I'm looking out here around, you know what I mean, in nature, and what the animals doing, that don't seem to be an issue.
Father in the home, they don't know how to respect women. They take on black feminine, female emotionalism. They're doubtful, they're indecisive, they can't make a decision. They don't know what to do about being a man because we can't teach them that. We don't have that knowledge. We have daughters who grew up in a home where they don't see any affection, where there's no man there. They go out into the world and try to mate. They don't have no idea how to be no woman to no man, how to function in a house with a man, because they haven't seen it. Most of our children, just like us, get all the information we have about how you be with a mate off television.
Television's mockery. That's what it is. Television's mockery. You know what I mean? Some shit that I talk about, you know what I mean, amongst my peers. Talking about television's mockery. Everything that motherfuckers do is some shit that's learned off TV. How they conduct themselves in relationships, TV. Romantic shit, TV. You know what I mean? Television's mockery.
It's the only medium that shows us anybody being together. Those rules have not worked for us. The white woman's liberation movement, we don't have anything to do with that. We have not been under the control of the black man for over...
White woman's liberation movement. That white and black shit, that shit is a social construct. How I know? In my own family records, you know what I mean? My ancestors have been called black, white, and mulatto. So, you know what I mean? That's a construct. I know from my own, you know what I mean, living, that the dark-skinned, melanated man that I am, you know what I mean, I've been able to produce, you know what I mean, through the women, you know what I mean, that I've seeded. Heavily melanated males and less melanated males, you know what I mean, as the mixture goes. You know what I mean? My number one, right? She was what, you know what I mean, we refer to as a red bone. However, the child that we produced, you know what I mean, was heavily melanated, right? And I met her mother, grandmother, you know what I mean, and it was that same contrast, you know what I mean, the mixtures. However, when my seed, you know what I mean, entered in the egg, that's what she produced. You know what I mean, a heavily melanated clone of myself, right? And my number two, you know what I mean, from, you know what I mean, her family from Oklahoma, you know what I mean, that's where they records go. She was dark brown skin, you know what I mean, like perfectly toasted toast, about that. She had that kind of brown skin, you know what I mean. However, her father, my grandfather, through, you know what I mean, her, Frank, was heavily melanated, and her mother, you know what I mean, Evelyn, also heavily melanated. But that's another story altogether, you know what I mean? Because the mixture was something else. And that's another story for another time. But relevant. And this time, truck just rolled by with all the wheels lit up. Like, because now all my wheels is lit up. But, yeah. So, my number two produced two sons. You know what I mean? Copper tone is what we're gonna call them. They're the copper tones. They got that type of reddish brown to them. You know what I mean? And she also brought forth, you know what I mean, the trait that's in my family, which is being born polydactyl, or with a polydactyl trait, not totally polydactyl. You know what I mean? Because the extra digits didn't have bones. They were just remnants. Right. So that's what she produced. You know what I mean? From the seed that I deposited into her fertile soil. Right. And then there's the number three. And she's what we generally call Puerto Rican. Right. But that's a European mix. You know what I mean? Those are the Europeans mixing in with us melanated people. I know this for a fact because I produced them, you know what I mean? I know how these traits, you know what I mean, and characteristics get carried forward. So, three sons, you know what I mean, all with woolly hair, but all the color of coffee with cream, that color brown, right? That range when the, you know what I mean, solar rays hit them and they start toasting, you know what I mean, then they get darker, right? Didn't carry the polydactyl trait, and because of the mix of the blood, you know what I mean, the number three had to get a blood transfusion, you know what I mean, because my O negative, you know what I mean, they feel like they're being attacked, and that blood resonates into, you know what I mean, the physical world. they're under attack. So there's that. You know what I mean? So we made these with Dr. You know what I mean? Malachi or Melchizedek called neutrinoids. We create these neutrinoids. We need to bear witness. You know what I mean? And understand and overstand that. Anybody, you know what I mean, that's with a woman of another so-called race, you see the type of mixture that you create if you know what I mean, have seeded that woman. And it is, you know what I mean, born the fruit of your seed.
500 years, so what do we have to get liberated from them from? They haven't been eyeballs. That's the white woman and her man. They're going through that, and that's their business. We don't have any business being in there. They only introduced it to break down the civil rights movement. Civil rights movement started with the black man, the black woman, and the black child standing together, trying to plead for freedom, justice, and equality, and more benefits in the country that they had built.
Yeah, that part right there. That part. I bear witness to that. You alright? And now I'm starting to, not even starting, but we all have understood from very early on, I mean, that this reality makes us feel a certain way, right? When we sit back and think about it, right? And we think about how these motherfuckers have come around us and try to dictate what our identity is, right? Knowing that, you know what I mean, we make all these different mixtures. You know what I mean? All the shades in between extreme so-called black and extreme so-called white. But the civil rights is what you're talking about. And this ties back into the whole intelligence versus conscious communities. When the intelligence community infiltrated the conscious community, right? Because the conscious community is built up of the things in our conscious, the things we want to know, the things that we are concerned about, the things that are affecting us, right? And movements come out of that. You know what I mean? Whether they was talking Pan-Africanism, whether they was talking civil rights, whether they was talking stand up for your rights, whether they was talking by any means necessary. You know what I mean? Whether they was talking about Allah, whether they was talking about God, whether they was talking about Yahuwah. Right? All infiltrated by the intelligence communities of other communities.
They threw the white woman in there with the women's liberation movement and made it a woman against man thing.
Like that.
That created a big separation between black men and black women because then everybody started going for self.
Like that.
Then they bring the welfare system in and tell us in order to feed and clothe and house our children, we have to give up our man. You have to put the man out of the house.
And speaking on welfare, they're about to give you me motherfuckers a food stamp boost. A food stamp boost. Look, we gonna go right there, right now. there's going to be a historic increase in food stamp benefits. Starts in October. Alright? Any dude out here that's dope, you mean, with a woman that was in Section 8, you mean, or received that WIC or that TANF or any of that shit, you know what this shit is. And if you started, you mean, going into it and doing some deeper research, you started looking up Title 4D and all that shit, you'll see what this shit is about. And if you got a business, you know what I mean, that, you know what I mean, benefited from building Section 8 homes and shit, you know what time it is too. But look, food stamp recipients will see their monthly payments go up in October thanks to a major update to the program, even though a special pandemic boost has now expired. I mean, pandemic, right? Benefits will jump 27% above pre-pandemic levels on average. The largest increase in its history. The change stems from a revision of the Thrifty Food Plan, which determines the benefit amounts of the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, or SNAP. That's how they got the power. The formal name for food stamps. Alright? Just saying. You can go look that article up. CNN Politics. CNN.com.
When the white farm wife goes to the government for subsidy for the farm, they don't tell her to get rid of the farm, and they keep that family together. But in the black community, they make it a requirement because they want to keep endorsing into the black community that the black man is no good and that he is not deserving of respect, he is not deserving of us letting him give us any protection or instruction, and that we are better than them. The major responsibility that the black woman has had on the earth for the trillions of years that we have been here has been one of nutrition and birthing children. Those two things have a great deal to do with the survival of any people, the reproduction of the nation, and feeding them the proper food so that they can live. Those are very important jobs. Those are very powerful positions because it puts us in a position to decide who's going to live or die and how slow they're going to die by what we feed them. We have a very powerful position. That's not a small role that we play. We have just been taught to misrepresent and misuse that power. The people who we have been counting on to give us the truth about how to get along have failed. The white people don't know how to get along. They don't have that information themselves. They don't get along with nobody on earth. So they didn't have no information to impart to us about how we're supposed to get along. They change their relationship rules at will. We have, tons of black children around this country that I hear from who have grown up traumatized by the fact that they were referred to as the outside child. When we were having children like that, they called it illegitimate children. Until the white woman started having them, and now it's single parenting.
All that shit, you know what I mean? All that shit is in the program. Right? Now you can go look up single family homes and shit. Like, it's a whole program. An intelligence program. You know what I mean? An intelligence program. All this that you see scrolling, all this is intelligence, right? It's gleaning or getting information for the intelligence community, and it's being injected with energy or information. from the intelligence community. Must be something really popping off right now because Dr. Inky ain't up yet. You know what I mean? And this was scheduled for an hour and, you know what I mean, what, 16 minutes ago. But conscious community versus the intelligence community, or conscious community and the intelligence community, they go hand in hand. And with all this shit that's going on currently, you know what I mean, we need to be in a no distraction zone, or grab, you know what I mean, the pertinent information from the distractions, you know what I mean, assimilate it and use it to, you know what I mean, progress your plan, because we're gonna have to have a plan for this shit. You know what I mean? And I'm getting up late. You know what I mean? Behind times and shit. Knowing but playing around, that bullshit. You know what I mean? Anyway, I ain't gonna hold y'all though. Go check out UB TV where I was checking out that clip that was bringing forth, you know what I mean, my other internal revelations and information for myself and shit.